Here on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, from time to time we put the spotlight on great or unique things that are happening within state cattle organizations across the country. Today, we turn our attention to Hawaii and the work of the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. Joining me now is Dr. Lisa Wood, a veterinarian and president of the Hawaii Cattlemen's, and Dale Sandlin, the managing director of the organization. Welcome both of you to our show. I guess to begin with, Dale, you both took on a pretty big project in putting together a 5-part video series teaching people about the beef industry in Hawaii. Why did you guys do that?
Sure, we wanted to show the care and commitment that our producers have and the daily pride that they put into their product every single chance they get. So what we were able to do is work with the Hawaii Department of Agriculture to develop a contract that would help us promote beef, and do that not only through this 5-part series, but also gave us the ability to create 2 new websites, one for the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council and the Hawaii Beef Industry Council, and then also to help us revitalize our Hawaii Beef Ambassador program so that they could be able to tell their story in their own way and really make that a priority.
You know, Hawaii is a fascinating place, but not some place that most people think of when they think of the beef industry. Lisa, what were some of the things you were trying to communicate to people relative to the Hawaiian beef cattle industry through this video?
I think one of the things we really wanted to be sure that we honored was the great history of the beef industry in Hawaii. In our first video series that talks about our legacy, the people in that film do a wonderful job of explaining how cattle came to Hawaii and how the ranching industry grew out of that. One of the most important things that happened in Hawaii occurred in about 1850, and that was the Great Mahele. It was a land division act that allowed, for the first time, private land ownership. And at that point, we moved from small subsistence farming to larger agrarian operations like sugarcane and pine. And with those large businesses came the need for labor. So many of our waves of immigration began at that time, and they came first from the Asian countries, from China and Japan. We have immigrants from Korea. We also have European immigrants, people from Portugal, Germany. And as these people started to come in and join our workforce, many of them came to work on the plantations. But our cattle industry was also slowly starting to develop, and the people of Hawaii were very, very welcoming. And there was this very unique sharing of cultural differences, so that in the saddle house, they would speak Hawaiian, but you would also hear the sounds of the ukulele and the guitar. And in the tack room, there could be equipment that had either Spanish or German origin. So there was this wonderful blending of all these cultures that allowed the birth of a new culture that we call now Paniolo.
That is absolutely fascinating. You know, it's so important for all of us to tell the real story of beef production. Since this is a 5-part video series in Hawaii, we're going to share one segment at a time with our Cattlemen to Cattlemen viewers. And we'll ask the 2 of you to share insights with us each time we do. So let's begin our trip to Hawaii cattle country with a look at the history of raising cattle in the islands.
From Mauka to Makai, Hawaii is filled with amazing sights. What is sometimes overlooked is the long, rich tradition of raising cattle in Hawaii. In fact, Hawaii's ranches produce a significant number of high-quality cattle, and beef production is an important economic contributor in the state. Likewise, the men and women who raise cattle and produce beef today play an important role in protecting Hawaii's natural resources, where cattle have been raised for centuries. Those men and women are also ensuring the rich history of the industry is preserved so that it may be passed on to future generations. Hawaii's cowboys, known as Paniolo, are at the center of this effort to preserve the past and to pass along the lessons learned from a lifetime on the land.
In those days, the Paniolo, my tutu man used to say, you know, you breed your own cattle, you breed your own horse, you breed your own cowboys. So Paniolo to us is more than just a culture, it's a lifetime.
My great-grandpa, they worked on the ranch. I was raised on the ranch, and my grandfather, my dad, but they worked for Puawa Ranch, neighbor from Puck Ranch right across from here. And they've been cowboys all their life, and then I guess I just followed the tradition.
It's tough to put into words sometimes what the Paniolo culture means. But if you've been around it and you've experienced it, and you've particularly seen older generations before you demonstrate what it means, there's a work ethic involved with it which is unequaled. They'll get up any hour of the day, any kind of weather. They'll go out and get the job done. They'll do it with good humor. They'll take a beating sometimes, physically. They'll be resourceful. You can throw a cowboy in a tough situation, he's going to figure out a solution. Without a lot of fancy tools and technology, he'll figure it out. There's that spirit to it. And they can be dead tired and aching and soaking wet, and they got a smile on their face, and they're still joking on their way home.
The Paniolo culture is fascinating. Captain George Vancouver brought the first cows here in 1793, and the vaqueros were brought in 1832 to teach the Hawaiians how to raise cattle. So the Paniolo tradition goes all the way back to 1832, and it's a unique blend of you know, love and interest for cattle and land with the Hawaiian culture. And there is no history of Hawaii without the Paniolo history.
Cattle have played an important role in the history of Hawaii as one of the longest enduring agricultural industries in Hawaii.
The first introduction was in 1793, and he made a second trip back with cattle. This second one included a bull, at least one bull. I think Kamehameha is pretty astute, you know. He saw the value of this animal as being a real source of protein.
In order to control and protect the cattle, large stone fences and corrals were constructed to create pastures. Today, some of these walls still exist on the islands, demonstrating the sheer size and scale of the early days of cattle raising in the islands. Despite changes in markets and production methods, the Paniolo remains an important part of the process, and today's cattlemen and women take pride in passing along the Paniolo ways of the past to future generations.
And I know that now and forever we have a job to do, and that is to be identified in this Hawaiian community. If you study the history, Paniolo made history. So to me, that's something to get excited about. That's something that I'd like my kids to learn about.